Oh, boy. It is a huge week for the Dogs in the Big 12. BYU is an underdog against Cincinnati. That line keeps moving, by the way. Happy game day for everybody in BYU Nation and Cincinnati as well. I'm excited to meet you all. That line keeps moving. At first, it was BYU -3. Then it was Cincinnati -2. Now it is Cincinnati -1 at the time of recording. God knows it'll be BYU -7 by the time we kick off. And then Cincinnati -7 at halftime. Give me the Dogs, the BYU Cougars. I'll get more into that later. Kansas and Texas. This line has stayed pretty similar, pretty even keel over the course of the last 48 hours. The Longhorns playing a home game against the Jayhawks after beating Baylor 38-6. Kansas Jayhawks, the number 24 team in America. This is a top 25 matchup. It wasn't a top 25 matchup when Kansas beat Texas. Which time, you're asking, because they've done it multiple times. And what happened with those, it felt like Kansas kind of snuck up on the horns. Whereas, like, oh, this doesn't make any sense. This wasn't really supposed to happen. This game wasn't supposed to be competitive. This is a game that is supposed to be competitive. That's what worries me, is Texas can't overlook Kansas. Also, Texas didn't just win a big game. They didn't just beat an Alabama. I think that's why they struggled against Wyoming, is because they had just knocked off the Tide on the road. They just beat Baylor. Baylor stinks. But Kansas has two of the best offensive weapons in the entire conference. Many would have argued, they did argue preseason that Kansas had the better quarterback, that Jalen Daniels is the better quarterback than Quinn Ewers. He was the preseason All Big 12 quarterback. All Big 12 team. Devin Neal at running back. Kansas has maybe the two best offensive players in this game. I do think Xavier Worthy is the best receiver in the Big 12. Quinn Ewers has shown himself to be one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the Big 12. But Kansas has enough offensive weapons to at least keep this game closer than 17 points. Kansas plus 16.5. Texas wins. Final score 35-24. Take the under as well. Houston and Texas Tech at Texas Tech. I have no reason to trust Texas Tech. I have no reason to trust Houston. And I don't know. I don't know what happens in this game. Donovan Smith Bowl. I don't know. Does Baron Morton get the bowl? Does Tyler Shuck get the bowl? Does Donovan Smith come out and say, hey, look, Lubbock, bam, 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 I'm a dog. He only has 5 touchdown passes this season. Does Taj Brooks run for 200 yards against this Houston defense? I don't know. This is a game. Hear me loud and clear here. This is a game. Texas Tech has a really bad rush defense, by the way. That's why I said that. Where coaching wins. The coaches win this game. There aren't a lot of all-star Jimmy and Joes on the field this week between Texas Tech and Houston. It's the X's and the O's. Dana Holgerson, Joey McGuire, Joseph. Tech improves to 2-3. They beat Houston. It's a sloppy, gross fest, like 24-14, 24-17. I won't be playing this game. You just go, ugh. You get done with the game on, FS2? Oh, throw up my mouth. That sucks. Give me Texas Tech. Baylor, UCF. UCF minus 12.5 points. I might buy this game up to UCF minus 16.5 until Baylor proves to me that it has a good football team or just even an okay football team. I will be riding everyone Baylor plays. It's just the way things go right now for the Bears. They're terrible. They're the worst team in the Big 12 as we speak. If there's one team in the Big 12 who's worse than everybody else, we have to circle one. It is Baylor. How do you go from winning a Sugar Bowl and a Big 12 championship to 2 years later, less than that, a year and 10 months, being the worst team in the conference? That's pitiful, man. That's pitiful. I can't help you there. I was like, maybe you're like, oh, you're a Baylor grad. Shouldn't you be more positive? No, you got to be a realist about this stuff. I'm not even being negative. I'm being honest. Who's worse than Baylor right now? Exactly. That's bad. It's unacceptable. UCF by 14, 17, 21 on FS1. Speaking of FS1, Iowa State, Oklahoma. I love the slate of games, by the way. I've told you I've loved some dogs. UCF's not a dog. I like them. And Texas Tech's not a dog. I like them. I do like Kansas to cover. I do like BYU to cover. I also like a couple of dogs in the late slate. Iowa State plus 20 against Oklahoma. The computer says Oklahoma wins by 13 points. Iowa State's got a good defense. I get Dylan Gabriel. Man, he's better than Quinn Ewers right now. We're not talking about it enough. Quinn Ewers has the tougher strength of schedule. Be sure. Yeah, for sure. But Dylan Gabriel's been impressive. Dylan Gabriel's been impressive. Now, here's the big problem. He's going against Rocco Beck, who has a much cooler name than him. I give the edge to the Iowa State defense in this game. They only allow 177 pass yards per game. Iowa State does not win this game, but Iowa State keeps this game within 3 touchdowns. It should not be a 20-point spread. Iowa State covers. Oklahoma wins. They feel bad about winning, though. It's one of those you get away with. You're like 27-21. Seriously? That sucked. But they still win. They moved to 5-0, by the way. West Virginia at TCU. The 3-1 West Virginia Mountaineers, the 3-1 TCU Horned Frogs, who have won 3 straight, including that massive win against SMU and against Houston. Tickets only $22. They don't pack out Amon G. Carter very well, do they? TCU minus 14, not so fast, my friends. West Virginia's defense is one of the best in the Big 12. I got to be honest with you. I do think TCU wins this game. I still have a lot of confidence they can get to Arlington. But it's closer than 14. West Virginia's a good football team. We just learned that. 24-17 in that range. 24-17 feels right. TCU, 24-20 TCU. Horned Frogs get it done, but it's gross. And West Virginia keeps it close. That's a bar. West Virginia plus 14. That's what I'm playing this week. There's a little look around the Big 12. And I'm going to go more in depth now to Cincinnati, BYU, Baylor, and UCF. Give me BYU to beat Cincinnati, Kansas to cover 17 against Texas, Texas Tech to beat Houston, UCF to cover 12.5 against Baylor, Iowa State plus 20 against Oklahoma, and West Virginia plus 14 at TCU on Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.